This time, oh, well, wait, Ryan's got. Call this meeting to order. Can you hand that there? Only starting a couple minutes late, but that's okay. So, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Anson. Here. Trustee Dorau. Here. Trustee Myers. Here. Trustee Landwehr. Here. Trustee Swenson.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager. Here. President Vanderstel.
Here. If you'd all rise,
Got it.
Trustee Dorau will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I put
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, if there is anyone from the public that would like to make comments for items that are not on the agenda, please step forward towards the podium. There seems to be none. So with that, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is a consideration of a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole minutes of May 9th, 2018, and the Village Board minutes of May 14th, 2018.
Also,
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. I have a few items that I just want to touch on with the minutes. In the minutes, I know it was clearly stated, but I think it was important that from the Von Bryson office in Madison, it was Attorney Hall that was here. I also think it was important that I will say that President Vanderstel did ask about communication, if that could be added to the minutes, did ask about communication for the time while the process was being worked before it appeared on an agenda. Okay. Also, on the minutes from the last board meeting, the 514 meeting, I know it says that one was donated, but the dog waste station was donated by Trustee Walschlager. If the motion could
I'll
include
make
those
a motion
changes.
to amend with, add the additions.
Okay,
I concur.
all right, so it's been moved, concurred, and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is a consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payments.
I move we pay the bills for 102, 795.98 cents.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Mike, we paid $357 for rubber bands.
What department?
What page? Or
I'm trying to get it up.
Good evening.
Jeff
Mike
made my
Einwood, Public
computer
Works
stop.
Director. That is the elastic straps around the garbage cans throughout the village to hold the garbage cans in place. I noticed that this morning when I was reviewing the list, and I noticed it was called rubber bands, but it's actually the heavy-duty elastic straps. to hold-
$400. $400 for,
How many?
I don't have that, but I can get that information for you.
Ryan had it?
okay.
Do you have the quantity?
The DPW.
Kimball Midwest.
Says one order, one ship, 17 by a quarter. 27 pounds.
That's a lot
17
of
by a
rubber
quarter,
bands.
that's the size of the elastic.
Okay. All right, I guess I can understand it.
Right.
The, how about, I noticed we're spending 2,300, I can't even read it yet. $2,500 worth of chemicals for our water. Are we buying any of that stuff through Delhart? You know, since we own half of that building, are we buying chemicals with Delhart for our water? This was his water treatment, chemicals for water.
That isn't the same thing that.
This is just for the water treatment system. It's not for the sanitary sewer.
No, I understand that. I understand it. What I'm saying is, why would we want to purchase that stuff separately when Delahart might have it that we can buy it together with them and save some money? Or is
I
it
can
we use
check with
special
well,
chemicals?
The special chemicals for the water system, I don't believe they would inject the same thing into their system. We're using the fluoride and the chlorine.
Say that again, please.
We're using, our chemicals we use for the potable water system. Their chemicals they use to treat the sanitary sewer waste.
Okay.
I don't believe they're the same chemicals because we're injecting the fluoride and using the chlorine in our water
And they don't
system.
do that?
Dick, do you?
Well,
know?
they aren't
One at a
the,
time.
they aren't the same, because we went through that a couple of years back, and there was no savings, and they didn't use the same chemical, unless you're doing it today and changed, but.
Okay, that's what I was just
No.
curious if it was the same stuff or, because they buy a lot of stuff over there, so.
Right, I believe they're different chemicals.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Okay.
Under general administration, the legal services, are those for the attorney to come to two different meetings? The 165 and the 710, and what's the 5698?
It's all attorney's fees, so it could be the court, it could be as minor as the opinion letters that they have to write as part of the audit.
So we don't, one of these is not specifically to have one of them come to our meeting?
No, it would be blended in with general.
Then why do they have three separate charges on here? Why isn't it all just into one?
One of them's related to court fines.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
one that specifically goes to court fines, everything else goes to administration.
Okay.
And they, for example, in Von Briesen, they split certain types out. So for example, the court is billed separately from general administration, and when they do, or from general legal activities, and when they do personnel activities, they'll bill that separately because there's more data on that.
This is all under general administration, what I'm looking at.
Right, but it all gets billed through general administration.
Oh,
It might be
okay.
that the bills come in differently because of what they are.
There's three different bills here.
Yeah.
Audit fees, we have utility contracts, we have open record questions, insurance questions. There's just a bunch of different things.
Okay, so that's all encompassing.
It's all
Okay.
part of it, yep.
You can break that down. You can break that down on the voucher list each time.
I just was wondering
Sure.
how that worked.
Well, that way you'd find out.
Any others? Trustee Walsall?
No, I'm done.
Okay, I had one question I just wanted to add, just for clarification. For, general administration, for the, payments to Wisconsin building inspections, is that portion that's the payment, is that the percentage that we give to them, or is that the total originally that we took in permits?
So the total gross permits for last month were $22,214.
Gotcha, okay.
They get 70% of that for $15,549.
Got it, okay, that's what I was, I didn't know if the 15,000 was
Yep.
the total, and then we had math to do from there.
Didn't we move on Pembroke Restroom, we're gonna build a restroom in Pembroke? I see we're still using a porta potty there, but I thought we put something in the budget that we were gonna build something more permanent there.
That would be in the CIP, and that cost, I believe, is around $240,000, but it's in one of the future years.
Okay, so it's not, yet hasn't been
No,
done yet.
it has
but
not
it's
been
still-
done yet. That's why we do still rent out the
Yeah,
portable
it seems,
restrooms.
yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
While we're on discussion, I'm just gonna add for the board, and this is going, and I know you made the comment facetiously, Dick, but any trustee can, no, I'm being serious. Any trustee, if they do request, they can contact Ryan to actually look at a voucher and see the breakdown. I'm saying now or in the future at any time, just so that everybody knows, because that is important, that is a possibility.
Well, I
So-
do that on Monday mornings is when I look at that.
Well, I'm just letting you know.
No, because somebody will say, do you ever look at the bills? And I say, yeah, I look at the bills.
Right,
If
right.
I got a question, then I call up who belongs to.
Any other discussion on the,
Outside my
on
toy
paying the
here.
bills? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is consideration of actions related to the licenses and permits. We have consideration for bartender's operator's license that expired June 30th, 2020. This is for Julie Chapman, Samantha Nelson Zerzo, Brittany Curry, John McNeil, Sarah Nanetti, James Heinzelman, Lisa Graves, Jordan Gilchrist, Pamela Maki, Rena Manriguez, and Kurt Bauer.
I make a motion to approve all of those bartenders' license.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the license as they were listed. Any discussion?
This is my
Any discussion on the licenses? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Those licenses are granted. Items related to the annual street dance. Street use permit applicant Heartland Chamber of Commerce. The date, July 21st, 2018. Time of closure, 3 p.m. to 1 a.m., July 22nd. Road closure, barricade set on East Capitol Drive at Church Street, Goodwin Avenue, and North Avenue beginning at 1 p.m. Closure from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. Tear down begins at approximately 11:15 p.m. with opening of all roads by 1 a.m.
I move that we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. That street use permit is granted. Then we have temporary Class B beer/wine permit. The Heartland Chamber of Commerce will sell beer and wine on Saturday, July 21st, 2018, with stand located near 151 through 155 East Capitol Drive address. Also, we'll do them one at a time. We have a temporary Class B beer license for Heartland Chamber of Commerce for Saturday, July 21st, the street dance. I'd entertain a motion.
Let's make a motion, we approve this street dance license applications.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The temporary Class B beer wine license permit is granted. Next is the public dance license application for the same event.
I make a motion to approve the dance license.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I am going to add for discussion's sake that on here, it's not that big of a deal. It might be different on the permit. I'm not looking at the actual permit, but the list, it says July 2nd. I believe it means July 21st. It's July 21st, 2018, 3 p.m. to 1.
Oh, that, wait a minute.
Hold on. 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. So July 16th. It should be 21st, correct?
Yep.
Am I correct on that? We don't
Yes.
know. Okay, this is for the same event all these are. Okay, any other discussion? That'll be corrected. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Last part of the street dance, temporary operator's license for annual street dance. Ronald Nolan Jr., Daniel Bird, Donald Minturn Jr.
I make a motion to approve those three for the temporary operator license for the annual street dance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Last, we have street use permit with the applicant being Lake Country Bed Barn. They're having a sidewalk sale at 122 Cottonwood Avenue on Saturday, August 25th. Their setup will start at 8:30 a.m. The event will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it'll be cleaned up by 3 p.m. on that same date.
I move we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That street use permit is granted. Next item on the agenda, we have items referred from the May 21st Plan Commission meeting. Consideration of a motion to approve the modification and expansion of the Veterans Memorial Site for Flanagan Dorn Post 294 at 231 Goodwin Avenue.
think that that's, I have no problem with him doing that. I was just curious, so we had that Boy Scout in here that was designing one for our park, and haven't heard anything about that ever since. And I was wondering if there was any.
That isn't the same thing. is it?
I did
It's
ask
no,
about
it's
that.
totally different, but one's for Nixon Park, one's for the Legion, and I'm just thinking maybe, it'd be nice if we had like the same thing on both.
It would, that was touched on at the Plan Commission meeting. I'll describe it the best I can. When it was brought up at the Plan Commission meeting, the Legion stated that for quite some time, they have been wanting to address theirs, and that the Nixon Park idea for that group came up later. The two are not connected. I get what you're saying. Maybe that's something the board needs to address on if they want them the same, or however they want to address that, but they are two separate entities, two separate monuments. Nixon Park obviously was built as a veterans memorial, and as was separately obviously the
And I also
Legion is.
believe what they're putting up as far as the details are different.
Correct.
That it always concerned me because the things you're gonna do in the park, nobody ever asked Legion what they thought about it.
Right. Right.
And it was like, why would we do that when we got these veterans here? But, I think it's a great idea. I mean,
But that was different. They did talk to the Legion.
Yep.
Because on that whole thing, because that was that came out of Arrowhead something more or less.
Okay.
That's never.
That was a
been-
project their way, but they did talk to the Legion, and that was their own deal.
Yeah. No, I'm just going off that
No, but
Plan
I'm just
Commission. I don't
saying,
know.
when they were down here or at the park board,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. But they're entirely different, two operations. But hey, it makes sense.
Is the other one still in process, the one for Nixon Park? Does anybody know?
I have not spoken to Mr. Reichley in quite some time about that. I don't know what his plans are there. He's in kind of a fundraising holding pattern.
That's
How
what
long
he's
is that, is that allowed forever, the approval on that, or do they have a certain time they have to?
Well, it hasn't been approved yet. I mean, they're getting the funds.
Well, we
we
approved one.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
that was
approved.
preliminary.
I
Was
mean,
that
it
the-
doesn't go on just forever, does it?
That was the Boy Scout that came to us that wanted
Yeah.
the slab poured and.
No, that's a separate one.
That's a separate
That's,
issue.
that's another one.
That's
That's
another
another
one
one.
going on.
Right, yes.
That's at Centennial.
Right,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
sometimes, right.
Yep.
That's
We got a lot of
That
park
was the
projects
kiosk.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to know if there's an end date.
There wasn't specifically one granted, although there are, generally in the village code, there are 1-year end dates and 18-month end dates on various approvals. For example, if you get a building permit, you have a year.
Okay.
I mean, an argument could be made that that's what,
I would just like
the
to see an
intent would-
update on it.
okay, we'll see what we can find out.
Is there a motion?
No, I don't believe there is.
I move we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Veterans Memorial Site for Flanagan Dorn Post 294. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve site and building plans for construction of a building and parking lot addition for Lake Country Caring at 603 Progress Drive.
So just quickly for the village board, and I apologize for not reminding you of what the Legion site was, but we can certainly talk about that if you want me to. Anyway, for Lake Country Caring, the proposal here in front of you is to remove an 18-foot addition they did about 2 or so years ago. They continue to grow in their space, so they're getting permission to remove that 18-foot addition and replace it in its entirety with a 36-foot long addition, so doubling its size, changing the interior cubic content as well. They're adding onto their parking lot to accommodate the fact that they're taking over some of their parking lot for the addition. Plan Commission reviewed that not only for the site plan, but also for the exterior appearance and recommended approval. So that's in front of you now.
So that's not gonna interfere with the buildings next to us with that drainage dish that's beside it?
No. No.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda, we have the consideration of a motion to approve revised Site plans for a new warehouse for Rapco Fleet Support, Michael R. White, on the vacant parcel east of 400 Cardinal Lane.
A representative of the owner is here and can talk to this if you'd like. The board will recall that several months ago, the construction of a warehouse space, or warehouse building, was approved on the lot east of the existing Rapco Fleet Services building to be attendant to that one that is used by that same business for their ongoing storage and holding services, or holding purposes, rather. At that time, the approval for access to the site and the future of the parking lot was from the east, that is through the Cottonwood Plaza property that is occupied by Piggly Wiggly, based on the existence of an easement for that access. As I noted to the board during the construction, or during the final designs, I should say, for the property, it was noted that the easement wasn't as big as originally thought. So they have come back and asked for permission basically to take their entrance, their trucking entrance off the Rapco Fleet Services side rather than the Piggly Wiggly side. Here and again, they'll be developing a new easement. They have done that. I have that document here. Creating a new easement that allows access to the new building from the existing. The reason that we're asking for an easement is because they are two distinct parcels, and in the future, the warehouse building is designed with its own parking lot and ultimately could be liquidated as its own asset. So we wanted to make sure that there was a permanent easement in place for access so that that was available if it should get sold. Anyway, again, Plan Commission reviewed the site. No other changes to the building, no architectural changes externally. Ultimately, the Plan Commission recommended approval.
I make a motion, we approve the changes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item, we have the review of the concept plan for a condominium development on the property located at and adjacent to N56 W28628 County Highway K, Lisbon Road. I will throw in, this is also known as the North 40 property, and we do have the members from the developer in attendance, the owner in attendance.
I'll let them do their own spiel.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Hi, good evening.
Long time no see.
Right? We obviously made an introduction to this a couple weeks back, and then I think it was last week we were at the Plan Commission. I feel like it's a weekly thing, except this week it's Tuesday, so it's a little bit different. So nothing really new to report from the last meeting, other than we're obviously here to discuss what the Plan Commission approved, and that is effectively a 50 home, we call them condominium homes, but a 50 home community on a condominium plat. It is less density than what we had proposed over that about year-long span. We worked through that process last year. We do have preliminary indication from the county that the access point we're proposing on Highway K is acceptable. It meets our site distances. It's on top of a hill, so we kind of knew it would meet the site distances. So we had preliminary review there. We had active dialogue at the Plan Commission regarding the access on Southern Oak Drive. A number of the residents were here at the meeting regarding that. And I think there's still some items to be kind of worked through in that process relevant to, whether we have public streets or private streets inside of our development. We think probably private streets makes the most sense, but we're open to strategies in that regard once we meet with Public Works and figure out how to make sure the public can still use those roads, and as well as figure out ultimately who's responsible for maintenance and things. So I won't go through a whole spiel other than that, but I'm here to answer any questions based on the dialogue we had last time.
And if I could add, at this point, what we are doing, and just in trying to make sure everybody knows what page we're on, this is what we would call conceptual level. So right now is not what we're deciding with what's on that paper is exactly what, but conceptually, from a density standpoint and this and that, it's been looked at the Plan Commission. Some things may be tweaked a little bit, this, that, and the other, but conceptually, what we're deciding here is, are we open to developing that land in something that has the general nature of what you see before you presented by Mr. Newman?
What did the Plan Commission do?
Well, the Plan Commission sent it here. We said that it was, conceptually, we thought that the density fell within the guidelines
With
of,
no opinion,
huh?
with no opinion?
Well, no, because it's just conceptual. And
okay.
conceptual meaning, so Mr. Newman's brought it forward, saying, here's this idea. Obviously, we have to figure out all the details. Right now, it's just, we'll get into the nitty gritty. Correct me if I'm wrong, Administrator Cox. Is
you're
that-
right.
Okay, this is simply conceptual so that it's saying,
No, I'm getting lost on this back and forth, because it used to be and they'd make a recommendation or they'd look at it. But then it comes back here, and then is the board supposed to get
Oh,
them
the Plan
opinion?
Commission-
And then it goes back to the plan commission, now he's back to the board again.
The Plan Commission thought that that conceptual plan was a good idea, and they sent it to the village board.
That's what I mean,
Yes.
when you call it conceptual.
Yep.
Because I'm losing something along the line here.
What?
Well, I'm losing that he's going back and forth here, and then all of a sudden, that's why I asked you, what did the plan commission say? And you said they sent it to the board.
Well, they sent it to, am I wording it wrong?
Well, I mean,
They voted to accept the conceptual plan and send it to the village
Okay,
board for
that's-
approval, because by
that
law,
is
they asked you.
Recommending.
Well,
that
that's
we
all I
approve the
asked,
con-
you know.
50 condos.
No, that's what I asked.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether they made any opinion on it, but they sent it to
So-
the
Yeah.
board.
They did.
Are we not supposed to ask questions about like private road versus public right now?
You can ask any questions you want. I just wanted to make sure everybody realized it's not like this is being decided right now. This is like when you're kind of looking over
Yeah.
stuff and,
Well, my question is, private versus public, are the if it was a public road where the village would be in charge of the maintenance of it, would it be any different? Would your private road be a different size or different quality than a public? So it would be the same width, the same, I don't know what you call the
Yeah.
depth of the road, or
Right,
the
the
same.
thickness of the
but it- so
base
it'd
and
be
the
same width.
asphalt. We have not had a meeting yet with the village's public works team or village engineers to discuss in that depth. I can tell you that typically a private road is requested if we are asking for some variance from the typical road profile. So an example would be the pavement width. If I don't know what the standard pavement width is in Heartland. If we wanted to request something different than that, then that would be one reason to have a private road. Usually, private roads are done, I should say usually, because I don't know if there is a usual in this regard, but condominium plats afford the opportunity for private roads. And really, it's for reducing the right-of-way area for setbacks and building placement and things. I think ultimately, and Administrator Cox mentioned this at the Plan Commission meeting too, there's always going to be some sort of a public access easement overlaid on that to make sure that the public can drive on those roads. And that turns it into more of a public type road anyway. But the other thing is, of course, we would want to figure out with the Public Works Department and later in this process, who would maintain those roads too. Because if we have to build them effectively to a public standard, the base, the thickness of asphalt, all those things, even if the width is a little narrower or something, if we're going to have to build them to public standards, we're probably going to want the village to maintain them, because otherwise those condo owners end up paying the same taxes as a homeowner, but they don't get the benefit of the service of road maintenance. So we would figure all those things out. The big thing for us is making sure that right-of-way, dedication or whatever, however we end up doing that, doesn't impact the density of the project.
And would you be
So.
willing to make the entrance onto Highway K a boulevard like Mary Hill versus just a small private road?
We really don't want to do that for two reasons. One is, I don't think it's really that necessary for 50 units of housing there. And we would make sure that there are proper turn lanes and things onto Highway K for safe entrance and into the community as well as out of the community. So we're going to have county highway requirements to meet those standards. But the other thing is that location, if you're familiar with the peak of that hill, it continues to go up even more to the north, quite a bit. And anything that we do to increase the size of whatever's required there is going to be fairly costly, I would think, in terms of grading to move dirt around and do what's necessary. So we don't want to make that entrance any wider than is really necessary.
I just thought it would be safer for the residents in there to get in and out if it was a boulevard. Because I know at Mary Hill, it makes a big difference with that being a boulevard versus just one road. It's easier to get into.
Yeah, I think usually the reason for a boulevard, and I don't know if this is the case when Mary Hill was built or not, typically the reasons we put boulevards in the entrance of a community is if it's a single access point for a time period, for public safety, you've got to have two lanes open if there's not another access point into the community. And I don't know that there was at Mary Hill, but in our case, there would be a secondary access right away on Southern Oak, and so.
But I'm under the impression that this could possibly be the only public, that the one for Mary Hill might be emergency only with the chain across it? Is that correct?
As I think you know from the Plan Commission meeting, that's not my opinion on it, but if that's the direction the village would like us to go, then that is what we would do.
Well, I know the planning commission, I don't believe, settled it one way or
Yeah,
another.
no, that's
But
right.
that was something that I know the residents were very adamant about. So if
yeah.
they made that an emergency, I don't know if that's the right term for it,
Mm-hmm.
road with, like they did for,
Sanctuary.
well, that and the one on Youngbluff Road where they had the chain across it, that you would need a boulevard for the main entrance, correct?
Not necessarily.
Creates a stronger argument for
access.
that.
There wouldn't have to be.
Okay, but it would be,
Like with
Yes,
Mary Hill,
okay.
that's the only access, so that creates the two,
there's actually three ways in and out.
oh, is it? Oh,
No.
okay, I'm sorry. I
Were
thought
there
that was
when
the
it was
reason I misspoke.
Pardon?
We're there when it was built
Two of
originally.
them were there.
Yeah, so for us, it's probably a 400-foot road. To add a boulevard for 400 feet with a grading necessary there would be very expensive. So frankly, it's not our intent to put a boulevard in, regardless of the emergency access or not emergency access over to Mary Hill. Our intent would be to just build a regular road in there. If the village, during the engineering review, if the village says we want an extra few feet of width on that road or something, that's not a huge issue, but putting a boulevard in would be a fairly expensive endeavor there.
But that boulevard was put in also going way back, because there's about 3 different roads that end into the town of Merton. I mean, to expand. I remember part of that when that came up. That's why they wanted to, for going north. Because you could go north, but you'd be going into Merton.
I
You
understand.
know what
what
I
you're
mean?
saying.
If you go up in the Mary
If we
Hills,
develop
there's
beyond
about
Mary
3
Hill,
dead-end
they
roads.
wanted
Yeah.
it for
You know, and that's why that boulevard, in case.
To handle a lot more future
That's
traffic.
right. See, that's what.
And that would not be the case here. Our intent is
Yeah.
not to have any additional development to the north of this parcel through our parcel.
But I mean,
You know what I
that's
mean? We don't have connection roads like Mary Hill does to the north that you're referring to. We do not have any connections to the north for future expansion.
But that's why certain it's different each development.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons why the boulevard came with it, because
And that would make sense. If it was built to handle more future potential
Yeah.
traffic, that would make sense.
Does each one of these condos have a built-in connected garage?
Yes, attached garages.
Attached, one car, two car?
Probably 2-car attached.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to the product development yet. I mean, I think they're
Someone
gonna be.
asked me that and I didn't know the answer. Okay.
They will for sure be garages, and I would say at least 2-car, whether it's 1 car from the front that's tandem deep or 2-car from the front, I don't know.
Okay.
But I would say at least a 2-car garage is gonna be something the market's gonna demand here.
One thing that I wanted to throw in is that, do you have a guess on, and I know I ask it at everything, but I know that your hands are tied on this. Do you know when the county's gonna give the actual 100%, you're good to go with the access on K?
We wouldn't get an actual permit, a county highway access permit, until we design the intersection. Is that right? So engineering, during the engineering phase, which typically is gonna be, if we get through the conceptual planning, we would then go into annexation, rezone, and planned use development with a condominium plat, like a preliminary plat. When we get past that stage, then we would go into final engineering, the actual engineer for the site, and that's when we would submit for our access permit to the county. Now, we've already gotten preliminary indication. I mentioned this at the Plan Commission meeting too. We had a meeting with the county, then the county actually went out on site with our team, looked at it, said, hey, this is about right. We probably need you to shift it like 10 or 15 feet to the west. So, I mean, they've literally been out there and said, this is close enough. You just got to slide it a little bit. And then there was following that email correspondence, well, what we need to do to actually request the permit.
Okay. So you will be granted access on Highway K? I'm just trying to make sure for.
Yes.
We're doing a round of drawings to get approved. I would expect in 30 days we'll have a sign off on it.
Okay. And if it isn't, I mean, honestly, it would affect you guys more than the village. It'd be like, what? But I just want to make sure that we're not all of a sudden hamstrung with, because that would create a different, that would get a little tough. But so I just wanted, so you're very confident, if not 100% sure, once all is said and done, that you'll get. get access to that county. All right.
And I think that they're
My
gonna
other
walk to work
question
with
is,
us.
are you guys going to, obviously this is, and I don't want to get too far, this is conceptual, but we know that running down that 1/3 of that page, that white line going down is owned by another person. Are you guys going to try to
Absolutely.
get something done with that, where then the village wouldn't have to step in the forms that maybe would be expected of the village to?
Yes, obviously the term is eminent domain. It's been brought up multiple times during the year and a half we've been working on this project. We don't control that. That would be something the village would need to do. It's our intent. We have never had to try to utilize eminent domain in any project we've ever built. It's my intent to work with the neighbor who owns that land to figure out how to get the safety necessary crossings, the road as well as the public service for the sanitary line across his driveway in a mutually beneficial manner.
Okay.
I will say that I had a conversation about a year ago with him. It did not go well at all. I hope it goes better this time around. We have not tried to even get into that conversation in more depth at this point, because without some sort of an approval that says the project's going forward, it's kind of a moot point. It doesn't do any good to try to deal with it. Frankly, I know that gentleman's been approached multiple times by prior developers on this site, and we told them until we have a meaningful approval to actually do something, then it doesn't really do any good to go figure out how to get across there. So we will try to. I do believe that this would improve the safety of his access to his driveway. I hope that that's something that's beneficial to him, because we now have two access points. He could come in through Mary Hill if he wanted, and he also could come in through our site and access his driveway without going in and out at the bottom of that hill. So I'm hoping that that's a benefit in and of itself. But certainly those are conversations we would take on privately. And I do know he's retained counsel, and that I've talked to his counsel about this as well.
And I was only asking because that'd be, I think in a perfect world, that'd be best. Is that you guys are able to meet and you talk and whatever. You guys do what you gotta do, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you can run my biggest thing
We
that
would
I'm
love
actually
to do
concerned with
that.
more so than the road is the pipe that, is just so far away from anything to run, you know what I mean? The sewer pipe running near the trees.
Yeah, it's
as
right
you
up
can
here.
show. That's my biggest concern, because it's my understanding you guys need that. I mean, to make everything work, you need that.
I think both are necessary. I think one for public safety, and I think the other is just for the services of the community. I mean, if we can't provide this property with village sewer and water services, we would end up developing this in the town of Merton.
Oh,
which is where,
absolutely.
you know what I mean?
That's
So
why I said
if we
you need
couldn't
that.
get through there, if the village didn't want to help us get through there in the event that we need help with that, then this just becomes a 30-lot subdivision in the town of Merton. Which, again, as I mentioned before, it's not our intent, but if we couldn't get services, then obviously that's the direction we go.
Okay.
It was my understanding at the planning commission that we were just approving the idea of the 50 condos,
That
not
is-
the roads.
We'll figure that all out.
So that.
Well, I'll let the
Well,
administrator speak to that, 'cause my
it sounds
understanding
to
is
me
it's
like the
conceptual.
developer though is already under the impression that that's gonna be a go-through road. And that was not my
Well,
impression at the meeting.
and he is, and I guess what I'm doing is understanding the two sides. We're on our side where we have to do what we have to do, and out of respect for Mr. Newman, he's running a business, he's bought the land.
Right.
And yes, he's saying things that'd be the most beneficial to the company, but I think that he would admit right now that he knows that there's things that we have to figure out. And he has the full rights to say he's gonna develop in Merton.
Just for benefits of the board, obviously, the two of you are on the plan commission, so you heard these comments before. I'll make them again here at the board so everyone knows. There was resistance from the neighbors, strong resistance from the neighbors that live on Southern Oak. Our position is, due to the relocation of our access point here, it used to be coming out all the way down this way. Now with this revised proposal, our access point is here. We believe the traffic is gonna use that entrance mostly. There'd be no reason why they would take a longer route to get home or leave home. So due to this entrance location, making a full connection to Southern Oak, to me, makes a lot of sense. Not only that, it's a T turnaround, it's been a T turnaround, it dead ends into a field, it's been on the village's comp plan. If anyone that lives there ever would have asked the village or even looked at it, I think common sense would tell you that that road eventually was gonna go through. I think for public safety purposes, that's what it should do. Now, as I mentioned at the Plan Commission meeting, just because I think it's the right thing for the community and for public safety, if the village I know where the landowners stand on it that live to the west. Despite what's there today, what their opinion is about it, it's okay if the village says we only want emergency access. I don't care, put a chain across it. I don't think it's the right thing to do for planning. I don't think it's the right thing to do for the village, but that's what you guys are all here to determine. I've made my opinion known on it. If you guys want me to put a chain across it, we'll gladly put in 2 ballasts and put a chain across it. I don't really care. I just don't think it has a practical impact on the traffic flow. That's my opinion, but fortunately, you guys are elected, so you get to make that final decision at some point and tell us if you want a chain across there or not. I don't think it really has an impact, though, on the rest of the site to speak of. I do think our residents should have a secondary access point that they can use in the event that they need to if there's an accident or God knows what on top of that hill. I think for public safety, it would be a wise idea to keep that road open on a permanent basis.
Do we have a motion?
Any other? I don't believe we did. We never got a motion.
No.
No, we did not.
I move that we approve the concept plan for, what do we call it?
North 40,
North Fork.
Highway
Okay.
K at the address listed.
It's going to be
I would
called
like that
Overlook
defined.
Trails if that
I
helps.
don't know.
It's what?
Overlook Trails.
Overlook Trails.
Overlook Trails. That's the current marketing name, so if that
Okay.
helps.
Okay.
What are the details? I don't understand the details.
So North 40 is now Overlook Trails
Or-
for the minutes, so when the newspaper
Move to
reads it.
approve the
everything
concept.
is
The
Overlook
concept
Trails.
being just the 50 condos.
Yeah.
The
right.
general idea.
Okay.
Generally.
All the details have to be figured out. Not all, but yeah.
But now when we're accepting it, we're accepting the fact that there's gonna be 50 units there.
Yep.
Yep.
That's,
And that meets the
because
current.
now he's gonna go back to the plan commission and they're
Yep.
gonna change something and come back here and we're telling the plan. I mean, I'm really confused with this one.
Well, no,
I never had an operation.
Hold on,
I
hold
feel
on.
sorry for you.
I didn't know if you were directing that at me or not. I'm like,
Oh, geez, you're almost, I see you more than I see my own kids.
Dick, while I appreciate your outstanding and overwhelming respect for the process, I'd be more than happy to explain to you what you're not understanding. What are you not understanding?
I'm not understanding the fact that when usually you have something that goes to the plan commission.
It did.
Plan commission says we either don't like this or we want to change the road, and then he works it out with the plan commission. Then the plan commission ends up sending it to the board, and the board comes around and says, okay, the plan commission says this, and we either accept it or we make a couple changes. But it don't go back to the plan commission, then have him send it over here, and then the board is telling him what to do, and then it's gonna get done sooner or later, but I just think I've never seen this.
What haven't
It's
you
never,
seen? Have you never done this
just,
before?
he's been up here 3 times, he's been here 3 times at the board, and the plan, and this is the first time I heard that even plan commission recommended it. Otherwise, we're looking at it, and the plan commission's looking at it, then we're looking at it, and then the board wants to turn around and say, well, we like the idea, but the plan commission hasn't liked the idea yet. The whole thing, maybe that's the new way of doing stuff. No, I won't say, I'm sorry I do that.
well, I'll comment just briefly, and not that I can answer on the process. We try to follow whatever process
I know
is in
that,
whatever
that's-
community we're in. This is a new proposal, though. The one we were doing for the last year was on 80 acres, and we were trying to solve a much larger, not only project area, but much larger traffic and road layout issue that was there. And we got approved from the plan commission, I think at every step in that process, and went through 2 hearings at the board, and it was I think it was a 3rd hearing here at the board, the public hearing for the comp plan amendment. And that was when we effectively got turned down. That was another whole, I don't even know what to call that. But we effectively said, okay, the density's not gonna happen, that much is clear. So we're not gonna get a density increase, but we'll go ahead, the village went ahead and approved the road relocation. So then we said, okay, scrap that whole plan. That doesn't work anymore, because without the density increase, we can't pay for what we were proposing, it's impossible. So we then said, let's drop this 40 acres, let's come back with the other 40 and a lower density that meets the comp plan in the village. And we also closed on that property. So to me, although yes, I've been here a lot in the last 12 months, I think it was more than 3 meetings, by the way. I think it was probably like 6 here and probably 5 or 6 at the Plan Commission. Fortunately, it's only about 3 miles from my house. But this to us is a new proposal. Our hope is that if we can get through this concept plan, we will be back with annexation, rezone, planned unit development, all at one time, because we don't.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying, this plan that I'm looking at right now, is that what the plan that they're approving and send it to the board?
Yes.
Conceptual.
That,
Conceptual.
The plan commission conceptually approved this and sent it to the board.
well, that's what I mean, but he was back before and then we didn't like this and that.
Dick, if I could, I'm gonna jump in here.
Well, I'm gonna say, I won't
No,
say
no, no,
nothing.
no, well, hold on,
I-
because that, you did say it, and I'm gonna address it. The last time that Mr. Newman was here at the village board was because I requested that he be at the village board, because over and over again, we have people in the citizenry, our citizens in Heartland, that say, why didn't I know that this was coming up? The last time he was here, it was not to have the board approve anything, and it was already on the plan commission agenda. And Mr. Newman did know, and if you remember from last time we had the meeting when he was here, Dick, you were saying, we can't take a vote because it's gotta go to the plan commission. It was already.
Nobody asked for one though.
Hold on,
At each time, and that's where I'm getting at. It's the wrong way of handling it. You can't handle it that way. I agree with him. I think that's great. He comes up and tells everybody what's going on. But don't ask an opinion of the board until you get an opinion from the plan commission is what I'm saying.
Dick, if you'd let me finish.
Well, I'm done now. I'm
I'm
not gonna
not.
say nothing more about it.
If you let me finish, Mr. Newman Developments was asked to come here because at the village board meeting, the cameras are rolling, more people come to the meetings and more word spreads, and I was making an attempt to request that he simply come and present to the village board so that also people on the village board don't say they didn't know what was at the plan commission. He was already on the plan commission agenda. He was not here for a vote nor an opinion. He was simply here to present to us what he was
I
taking to the plan
agree with you.
commission.
But then the last two times or last time, all of a sudden somebody says, well, I like it, should we take a vote?
Right, that
And
was,
I think-
Mr. Newman
and now-
did request
so
that, and I
now we're back
stopped it.
here, that's why I ask, I don't care what you do, you can go back and forth, he's got more time than I have, I go back and forth. Is the plan commission giving us what he's presenting us so that we can give an opinion? Or are we making an opinion and he's going back to the plan commission? And then I talked to somebody on the plan commission and said, well, the board don't like it, why is it here?
Just tell them. yes,
I mean,
the
why is
plan
it back to
commission
the plan
has already
commission?
made a recommendation.
That's what
I
I'm
think
trying
it
to-
started, I think the plan commission unanimously approved this concept plan.
That's
I'm
all I
hoping that
was-
tonight,
Yes.
we have some,
Yeah,
a
If the-
vote on whether or not
If-
this is acceptable
If
to
the plan,
board.
and I'm trying to, Dick, I'm trying to do the best job that I can in explaining this. If the plan commission had not approved that concept plan, okay, the plan commission did approve the concept plan, it would not be at this meeting right
well,
now.
that's why I asked, because it
Yes.
wasn't presented that way, it said, he's gonna show us another picture. That's what I said, did the plan commission approve the, send it to the board? So the board isn't making an opinion on it again, and then it goes back to the plan commission.
Right, the reason that he came was so that if someone had questions, is that correct? If someone had questions that they could ask, and so that he could present to the public again the concept that was
No, I
moved forward by the
understand
plan
that, but when
commission.
it started out tonight, you didn't say the plan commission sent it to the board. You
Oh, I'm
just said
sorry,
he's
I-
here to show the board.
Dick,
what-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Dick, hold on,
I-
hold on,
that's
hold
what
on.
I'm
Dick, I
asking.
want to get this clear. After the third item on the agenda, after we approved all the permits, I said the next items are items referred from the May 21st Plan Commission meeting. There's just quite a few of them, so I didn't announce that before each one.
No, that's all I asked. I'm not, I just wanted to know before everybody's giving their opinion on the board, whether this is what the plan commission suggested.
Right, oh no, and that's why I'm trying to clarify, because you do deserve an explanation, but yes, this was referred with approval from the Plan Commission. They sent it to the village board saying that they liked the concept plan, the same concept plan that we're looking at now.
You want to second my motion to approve the concept?
No, let somebody out there knows what they're, I'm confused. Cause now they're talking about, well, I'll second it, so it gets on the, now you should have a discussion. Cause you had a motion and a second, now you had a discussion, so we don't need a discussion now, cause we eliminated discussion before we had a second. That's what I've been saying for, no, I'm not used to that, we're going backwards. Or it seems to me, maybe I'm getting too old for this. I think probably I'll retire and sit in my pool. But anyhow, I made a second, so.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Is there more clarification that you need?
No, all I wanted to know, and I don't wanna go again, is that what the plan commission sent us? Not that he came up here to show the new idea again. That's all I'm trying to get.
Yes. This is
This
an item referred from the plan commission meeting we had last
fine.
Monday.
That's fine.
Yes,
Jeff, it will come before us again though, correct?
correct.
Several times.
Several times.
Okay, I just
Hopefully
want
all in one meeting.
So now what will happen, just for discussion's sake, I want everybody to know here, and everybody on this board, everybody in attendance, and people that are viewing from outside or that watch on YouTube. This is conceptual. We all know that. You go to the car lot, yeah, I want that car. Now you gotta pick out all the details. Which pieces do you want added? Do you want the tinted window, sunroof, all that? There's a lot of little bits and pieces that you have to work on. So conceptually, you know what car or kind of car you want. I'm just using this for a way of explaining. Now this will go back to the plan commission and we'll start getting into more details and things of that nature. Whether the roads are gonna have a 5-inch base or a 4-inch base, all those kind of things. And I think that, Mr. Newman, I'll even ask, I believe that you are under the understanding of that kind of back and forth. Now we go into more detail.
Yes, for sure. The reason this is of critical importance for us in this situation is because that land is in the town of Merton today, zoned for about a 30-lot subdivision.
Right.
We would like to bring it into the village of Merton, have it fully serviced with sewer and water,
Village
and
of
have
Merton,
50
apartment.
single-family. I said it again, didn't I?
Yeah, you
It's because there's a village of Merton and a town of, the village of Heartland, we would like to bring it into the village of Heartland and have it fully serviced and have 50 single-family condominiums on the property. The reason that this concept plan is of particular importance to us is because we've discussed this with Dave a bit, and we have to make sure that we don't annex the property without having the necessary entitlements in place to make sure we can do what we want to do.
Right.
And that's the part of this that I think we're gonna have to work on with Dave to figure out how we proceed, because we need to make sure that when it does come into Heartland, I said it right, when it does come into Heartland, that it comes in with the proper entitlements so that we don't come back to these conversations after we bring it into Heartland. So the last thing we want is to bring it into Heartland and then find out we can't have sewer access, you know?
Right.
Those sorts
Right.
of things are important for us to figure out.
Absolutely.
So, yes, we will be back multiple times, but
And
making
that
sure,
shouldn't be in Heartland without being sewer and water.
we totally agree with
You
you.
know, you got, let me only make a statement, there's 1,000 gallons, each house uses about 1,000 gallons of water. And if you put 30 houses in there, that's 1,000 gallons a year that's going in the ground next to the well that's pumping it out with those 30 houses.
Thousand a day.
No, 1,000 a year is what the average house uses.
You're just going through this little kind of-
Or give or take a little.
Anyway,
But
it's a lot. We don't want it in the
That's a lot
ground.
of water going in the ground.
Yep. And we will talk about the
Frankly-
liquid statistics once we head into the details in a more detailed
I have
plan.
one quick question. Just so everybody knows, what's gonna be your average price for the condos? I know there's a range, but.
Yeah, we think, you know, and obviously it's very different with the ones right by the highway versus
Right,
the ones back by
right.
the woods. But we're thinking right now that the starting price, we'd love to be right around 400,000. We think realistically it's probably going to be a little north of that, and we think the primary range of these will be probably say 1,800 to 2,200 square foot ranch condos. We think the primary price points will be 450 to 550.
Okay.
We'd love to stay 400 to 500,000. I mean, that's where we'd really love to be. I suspect with the amount of topography out there, there'll be a fair amount of exposures, you know, half daylight exposures or full walkout basements. When that happens, I suspect a lot of the customers will add finished basement packages and things to it too, so.
Okay.
But we would love to start the pricing at $399 if we could.
Any other discussion?
I think the one thing that we have to make clear, that's important to me at least, is one thing that you said during the Plan Commission meeting, because I was at the meeting. You had spoke to the people that were here, it was a full house, by the way, and you asked them, does anybody have an objection to this concept?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had an objection to the condo units, the 50 condo units
That is
that were
correct.
here.
And
So I
that's
think
been-
that's important to let
It
the
is.
people now know, to the public, that nobody that lives in Mary Hill, nobody that was here, and the other people that were here at the time, nobody had an objection to to this condo
And
project.
that is a good point, and that is true. They did not have,
It was all about the road connection.
it's all about, and we'll figure that out. Right now, we're on concept, but that's a very good point, because they were not against conceptually, and
Right.
they even said, we are not gonna stop progress in the village, that's fine. You know, some people made the comments of, oh, you come into Hartland and then you close the door on it, and none of those people were doing that.
Right.
We'll all figure out the road, we'll figure out what's best for accesses and stuff like that, but then we'll do that down the road, you know, when we get into our more detailed meetings. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the concept plan?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
I didn't know what Dick said.
You're just not
Thank you.
very nice.
Thank you.
That's a good word.
See you again
Don't worry.
Next week or 2 weeks.
next week.
We got work to do.
You guys bring
See you
subs
tomorrow.
next time?
Dick, someday I'm gonna run a meeting and you're gonna say, Jeff, that was a good job the way you did that.
I'm not, no, I don't want to get involved. I'm not going to, I'm trying not to get involved.
I'm messing with you.
It's just so screwy.
And that- thank you, Dick. The next item on the agenda, and we are on a record pace for the last 9 months, but review of the concept plan for condominium development on the property located at, I'm sorry, wrong item. Item 8, consideration of actions related to a proposed plan unit development amendment for Riverwalk. The first item of this is review of proposed amendments to the planned unit development agreement for the Riverwalk development to allow full commercial use in the mixed-use building located on East Capitol Drive. And and I do have to say, Trustee Landwehr is correct. There should not be discussion until there is some type of motion. According to the rules in which we operate, he is correct on that. So I will sit and wait till we have, if someone would make one.
What are we doing?
Well, that's where this gets difficult.
Let me just remind you of process here, and all respect to Trustee Landwehr. In land use matters, we have traditionally allowed discussion, so to speak, allowed the presentation on what the matter is, so that the village board is reminded, so that the public is reminded, so that the issues that came out of the plan commission can be explained. And then, near the end of the conversation, there has been a motion. If you want to adjust that, that's certainly fine. However, I would suggest that, as we have in the past, at least we allow either staff or the developer representative to make a presentation on what the proposal is, so that at least that much is out on the table and we know what's going on.
I'm completely fine with that. With the continuation of that trend/tradition.
So, if you want me to, I can do it. Otherwise, I would present Ryan from the Riverwalk Development Property and McCormick's group to kind of explain what's going on. I know there are other representatives of the tenant in the room, so that they can answer some questions as well.
Great. Good evening. Ryan Hodgson with JD McCormick. Good to see everyone again. So we're looking to change the planned unit development agreement, which currently says we're going to have some commercial square footage on the first floor, 3 residential units on the second floor. At current time, there are 5 residential units on the second floor and commercial space on the first floor. What we're requesting to change is that the entire building has the opportunity to become full commercial use. There were some changes to that made by the Plan Commission based on their conceptual approval. They requested that if there was ever not commercial use, that the changes from residential space to commercial be changed back to residential within 60 days of any commercial lease ending. There's one other minor change, and this is more of a tenant business operation plan thing. Just having that Keller Williams having any events or training where there'd be a large number of attendees, they'd be required to park at the municipal lot located on the other side of the river, across that beautiful bridge. So.
If I may also, as a reminder of process here, this is a planned unit development agreement, so this is essentially zoning. And as a result, it goes through everything twice. This is the first time that the village board sees this. The plan commission, now obviously you had your introduction meeting, but this is the first in the process that the village board sees this. The Plan Commission looked at it on Monday, as Ryan alluded to, and made some requests or made some comments about it. The Plan Commission will see it again at their June meeting, at which point they would likely finalize any comments that they have on it and make a recommendation to the village board with more details. The only thing that the village board is asked to do tonight for sure in terms of, in terms of an action, is to set a public hearing on the matter. Again, it's like zoning, so there's a public hearing on the matter that would be hopefully scheduled for essentially a month from today at the village board meeting. So that's the process.
Set the public hearing for the Monday, June 25th meeting.
I second it.
I have a question. Are you gonna put an elevator in this building?
It's been moved in second at discussion. No, that was my fault for not saying it right away. Go ahead.
Sure.
Are you gonna have an elevator in this building?
I don't believe it's required.
With the Disability Act, don't you have to have some kind of access for, especially if it goes to apartments on the second floor? Isn't there some kind of international ruling on that?
Sure, so if there were to be apartments on the second floor, we have an ADA accessible unit on the first floor that would have to be available to anyone if there was residential use on the second floor.
And, quick question, if, as I understand it, the upstairs has not been completed yet, is that right?
Correct.
Then, do you have right now an occupancy permit?
Yes,
How
everything's
did
been
you-
completed
How did you
to
get an
occupancy
permit if
standards.
it's not finished?
It's completed to occupancy standards.
So if it was an apartment, you're saying I could move in there?
You could, it's not up to our rental standards as a company.
So it's got the walls, the cabinets, the carpeting, everything for an apartment?
Close, no cabinets, no appliances.
So
So the requirements were toilet,
So
and running
would it-
water, kitchen sink, I believe, and floor coverings.
So, but it has all the separate walls for each
Correct.
separate unit, but it doesn't have the so really it isn't set for occupancy.
It meets the minimum standard under the building code for occupancy. I don't know that you and I would want to live there necessarily, because we'd have to bring a whole lot of our own stuff. But it is set, it does meet the minimum standards for occupancy. The minimum items were completed.
Yeah, but the Village of Heartland, I don't think should settle for minimum. I mean, I think we're a great community, we're very unique, and a minimal, I don't think it should have been
Well,
issued yet.
it was staff's opinion that in the scenario where there was a request coming through to convert, at the same time as occupancy was being requested, it didn't make sense in that scenario to require the developer to spend money that they would just throw away.
Was the occupancy permit for 3 or 4 or 5 apartments?
It was for the 5 units that exist on the second floor. And I suspect the one on the first floor.
Correct.
Okay.
In other words, there's no elevators in those other units?
In the two other buildings, yes. In the
There is
one-
an elevator in each one of the other buildings.
Correct.
That you gotta, I mean, just for the heck of it, that you gotta have by state, and it, when there's a second floor?
Yeah, I believe it's for the third floor. In the case of the building we're discussing here, that ADA accessible unit on the first floor kind of covers that elevator requirement.
Oh, is that what it is? It's third floor, if you have only 2 floors, you don't need an elevator.
As long as you have an ADA accessible unit on the first floor, an elevator is not required for commercial space.
Oh, okay. But you go, okay. I thought as long as there's a second floor, you always had to have an elevator.
Make it easier for disabled people.
Well, isn't that, it was required, but
Yeah.
that's why we got an elevator, but if you're talking the third floor in this building, we had to put one in this building. Okay, that's answered my question. No, I got no.
I have a couple.
Sure.
Quite a few. On 5/3/18, J.D. McCormick put in an addendum request saying presently there are 3 two-bedroom units and 3,000 feet of commercial space, proposing 5 units residential and 3,000 commercial. Why on 5/3/18 did we get a request to change something for a building that already had been built with 5 units upstairs?
As far as I know, the plans have been approved much further in advance than that.
Can you describe to me exactly what makes you think that they were approved much farther in advance than that?
I know that without approvals, we wouldn't have got permits, and the building would have never happened. That's all I can speak to of that. I wasn't around for that phase of it.
Okay. So if you thought that it was all good, why did the company turn in a permit or a request for a change, an amendment to existing plan unit development change on 5/3/18?
Sure.
After 4/30 of 2018, Keller Williams Realty, who this is in no way, shape, or form combined, other than they may be the tenant, but they are not combined, turned in a amendment to make it all commercial. And I'm just, I guess I
Sure.
hear while you.
Sure.
And
So these things were-
I appreciate
were-
you saying you just wouldn't do it unless you have it. You can't give me any more than that at all.
You know, these were all made together, these
Well, I will
agreements.
say that the wording in the amendment allows the occupancy to be either or, 100% commercial, or under the original PUD of residential and commercial in the event. Our intention is to take the building for 7 years. So the amendment is drafted to provide us an either-or solution to satisfy both residential or 100% commercial.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is your amendment is to the, I don't need, I'm gonna stick with the McCormick thing first, because honestly, this has nothing to do, in fact, I'm gonna thank you, because at the Plan Commission meeting, Keller Williams was the one that brought it to my attention that the building is not actually built within the filed, to the best of my knowledge, and I'll ask you as the representative of J.D. McCormick, is that building right now currently built based on what was approved by this village and filed with the county of Waukesha?
Per plan, yes.
The PUD that's filed with Waukesha is, I just asked you if it's per that PUD.
I would say no then. I
Okay.
would say that it is built to plans that were approved and permits that were issued.
Someone
And
had to
I
approve those
don't know
plans.
where that ball got dropped.
The reason,
I
and for
really
the
don't.
village board, I'm gonna bring it right out. We have a building that isn't built based on what we have. It didn't go through the plan commission and it didn't go through the village board that there's 5 units upstairs and 1 unit downstairs, and I am gonna add, and I'm not trying to play a game of gotcha, I asked you how much money it was gonna save you to change this. The fact of the matter is the PUD meant that the changes you made that weren't filed with the county meant you didn't have to build an elevator, and I'd say that saying that it was a wash on what would be saved is not true anymore, as we discussed. Do you understand what I'm saying? 'Cause it was
Correct. I told you
extremely
initially it was going to
cost-prohibitive.
be a loss.
So
to
how
us
did
initially.
how did this happen? And I see, as I guess I'm even saying, I'm getting the feeling there's been some talks. I just want to know what happened.
And that's a great question. I was not involved in it. I don't know.
So you received approvals from the village?
Who would
You
have
said
the
you
answers?
wouldn't build it without approvals from the village. I'm asking if you have approvals from the village.
Dave, can you speak to
The
this at all?
state and the village both approved the plans. The building inspector approved the plans with the 5 units upstairs and the 1 unit downstairs. It was not properly done as a PUD change. However, back in, I think it was about August of 16, the Plan Commission was presented with that conceptually. And aside from the fact that they prefer that there wasn't a residential space on the first floor, they indicated it acceptable to them that that second floor be divided into 5 units. Immediately after that, we began to explore other possibilities with this building, and I have to be honest, it is probably my fault. I did not pursue a change to the planned unit development agreement when those other development possibilities evaporated and the developer was going to go forward with building their new building, as the original plans were discussed. That is, as the revised plans were discussed.
Okay.
So if there is someone to blame here, it is the village administrator sitting at this table right now because he missed a piece of the process. Now, when it came forward at this point to, for Keller Williams to rent the entire building, the conversation was, let's not only have that piece addressed, but clean up the mistake, if you will, from the past. So the village board can decide what they want to do about that, but it is, I'm going to tell you, no one else's fault than mine.
All right. Well,
How do you go, Jeff, I'm just asking, never mind, he's thinking.
We have to, it's an oversight, but a grave one. And I guess I'm going to come out and I'm going to ask, there's memos to the Plan Commission. There's memos to the village board. And I guess I can only say that it frustrates me very much that behind closed doors, or not behind closed doors, but that meetings were going on where McCormick knew more about what was going on with the newest building on East Capitol Drive in Heartland than the village trustees were even made aware until it was brought up by Keller Williams, and that to me is extremely disheartening. I would like, the board can agree or disagree, but I would like a full report on exactly how this happened and why it happened and why the board was not updated at the soonest time, including the Plan Commission, because we do have a process in Heartland, and we have for a long time, and as you just said, I mean, I'm not, gonna keep jabbing here, but something really went wrong. And it just so happens that what went wrong, it seemed important enough that McCormick came to the village, which they did in August of 2016, as an informational item, and I gotta say, the reason they came to the commission was because they realized that they read the state law wrong, and they realized that they needed an elevator if they didn't put in another unit. And the change was made simply for the fact, and without any commission or board approval, so that J.D. McCormick could save the money of not putting in an elevator. And that is something that needs to go in front of a board to be talked about. Our village deserves it, and the people on the commissions that are appointed deserve the respect of being able to look at it. I do agree, some minor changes don't need to go in front of those, but absolutely if we make a mistake, we communicate with each other and we address it. Mistakes happen, we're human beings.
I will say
I don't
that
like
that-
covering it up. Go ahead. Well, no, I just, it
Okay.
gives that, it
That's
has
fine.
that
You
perception.
accuse me as a cover-up, that's fine. It was a mistake.
I did
and
not
that-
accuse you, I
Well,
said that's.
Whatever.
Hold on.
That's what
I
was-
said, that's the way it looks.
I apologize.
Because you did even say, you said we were trying to clean up the mistake behind the scenes and move forward with the Keller Williams thing, and that's all I was saying. I'm going off of what was said. I'm not in a fight. I'm obviously frustrated. I've admitted that. I think that the village board could have been notified much earlier. I didn't know it until the Plan Commission meeting, but go ahead, the floor is yours.
I will say two things. One, the matter was resolved, so to speak, prior to your tenure on the board. That having been said, it was still not done per the process. I will also add that the front building at the Riverwalk was never intended to have an elevator. The plans that had been developed were based on the understanding and the experience of the architect and the building and zoning official involved, that as the state had done in the past, when considering a multiple building or a multiple building development, where two of the buildings in this case were fully accessible, elevators and everything, the state had not made an interpretation that the third building was required to have the first floor residential. That's how it was explained to me, that's how I understood it, however many years ago that was. So, that notwithstanding, we will get a report together on exactly how it transpired that the 5-unit concept didn't go beyond that discussion with the Plan Commission in terms of public conversation.
If something happened before my tenure, I mean, feel free to say it was taken care of. I don't know. I mean, some members are still the same. Is it something that came before the boards, or you mean it was someone that was in the position that I'm in now, that person took care of it? I'm not sure if it was taken care of.
The matter of the other development was resolved in about February of 2017. At that point, this developer moved forward with the construction of that building and finalizing those plans. Is my point of that it was resolved, so to speak, before your
Could
tenure
you
on the
please
board.
define what you mean by resolved?
As a reminder, I had said that at the same time, the Village Plan Commission looked at that concept of the 5 units, the village and the village board began a conversation about whether there was a larger development that could take place on East Capitol Drive that involved more property and more structures than what was originally approved in the Riverwalk development. More buildings to the west. During those conversations and during exploration of that by the developer and others, that ended up being that it wouldn't work. Frankly, I think it was ultimately that the village board recognized that the economic support that would have needed to be provided by the village through tax increment financing far exceeded any benefit that would be made. And it was also not likely that the development that would be constructed would ever meet the assessed value necessary to find those funds. So it was decided, like I said, around February of 17, that there would be no effort to pursue that. That was essentially a dead issue. At that point, the developer went back to, that is, the McCormick Group went back to constructing the commercial building in an effort to finish that part of the project and get that piece done. And it's in that mess of possibilities that the mistake was made and that the planned unit development agreement wasn't modified to completely address the 5 units on the second floor and the 1 on the first floor. But I will have developed a more clear report on that to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, the 2 different issues, but the one we're facing. Does anybody else have any other discussion? I guess I'm saying to the board, these are 2 different issues. One of them is different than the proposal that we have in front of us for Keller Williams as we.
Can we approve this with it still being wrong?
I and we can look into.
If it's not a current or proper right now, how can we approve something?
As long as they don't rent it to anybody, and if it's going full commercial, I don't know. I haven't talked to, I don't know. I haven't talked to Waukesha.
You already made a motion for a public hearing.
Yep.
all
So
we're
are you
doing
gonna
is
pass
approve
on
the
the night
public hearing.
and then have a public hearing, have the people come down and tell them, well, I already passed it last week? It's like,
We're not passing anything.
Well,
Except
you're,
setting the public.
We're setting the
hearing.
public hearing.
yeah, but she wouldn't, never mind. I'm in the wrong place or something. I'm just confused. We're setting the public hearing and now you wanted to make a motion to do either approve it or not approve it a week before the
No, I only
public-
said-
Not you.
Oh,
And
okay.
Nancy, when she said, can we make a motion?
I think what Ann was meaning was she was asking if we could move forward with the building not being in compliance of
Yes.
all the filed documents. I think
I'm
is what
sorry,
she was
that-
saying. But you are
yes.
right. All we're doing is setting the public hearing.
And you certainly can talk to the village attorney's office, but I suggest that they would reply that if it's the village's intent to allow that the building will have the potential for 5 units on the third floor, or second floor rather, and the building on the first floor, or the whole commercial, or however this works out, that would be acceptable in terms of remedying the issue.
Cures it.
But certainly, I would encourage you to have that conversation directly with the village attorney.
I will, we have a motion and a second for a public hearing. I am just saying again, while we have the discussion open, that I do want to look into the fact of what went. I want to know exactly, and honestly, from J.D. McCormick, if you could ask whoever you could ask, in fact, I mean, if you even got to write this down, I want to know when you knew this problem existed. When did you find out that what was filed didn't match? Why was that thing turned in on 5/3? And what was being worked on to correct this? obviously it raises my eyebrows when I see something turned in on 5/3.
Sure.
You can understand, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think this was
There
done
was some conversations going on.
in
and
connection
this was
with that
turned in
letter
for-
from Keller Williams, that we knew that if they were going to make a request to change the PUD amendment, that we had to file the appropriate application. And I believe that was based off of the letter that they sent.
My fear here for Heartland is that if Keller Williams wasn't moving into that building, we'd be sitting with a building that no one in this village got to decide on what units they want where.
As far as residential?
No, as far as just the agreement that went in front of the proper, that
Sure.
went through the proper process.
Sure.
3 units upstairs, as this indicates
Sure.
here, which means McCormick knew something was wrong at that time. Now, maybe it was because, and when I say McCormick, I'm saying the company. Keller Williams talked about it at the last meeting, but that's the only representative that brought it up. I wish you guys would, I mean, you could have said something to us too. We tried to ask a lot of questions. I'm just saying.
Sure.
So if you could give me the information on,
Yeah, and I believe this was an all-encompassing agreement or amendment to the PUD, was to change it to cover everything. I think this came to our
hold
attention
on.
as well.
I don't think it, I hope, if it was to cover everything, I asked Keller Williams what made them decide to do this, and they said a broker came to them. This building was already in motion before they came to you, unless there's something I don't know about. Or maybe you're right, maybe we just stumbled upon something and this was to cover everything, I don't know.
To cover what?
That's, you said the Keller Williams PUD amendment was to cover everything.
Was to take care of the changes that were made per the conversation that happened in February of 16 or 17. I'm sorry on the dates, but
Conversations with
whoever approved the plans, I really don't know who was involved in that.
Can you look into it?
I can,
Thank you. Can you, like by the end of the week,
of course.
could you try to provide some, they have my email, if they're not, it's on the website.
Wouldn't that be in the notes for the planning commission that they discussed this?
Yes, it is in the notes.
It is that it
The
was
planning
discussed?
commission discussed it and said that they did not like the residential unit on the first floor. They didn't, they said some things, but there wasn't a lot of notes on upstairs. They weren't, you know, it wasn't like they
So
were
it
like, hey,
wasn't voted to approve?
it was never voted. It was an informational item only. This never went before the plan commission,
Okay.
ever. And that's why I'm frustrated. It was never an amendment, but now we look at amendments and all of a sudden everybody knows to put in an amendment where it says right on there, amended to existing planned unit development requires 2 plan commission meetings and may include up to 3 village board meetings. During one of the village board meetings, a public hearing shall be held. I mean, it's clear. It's in black and white. So it's been moved and seconded to set the public hearing. I'm not gonna go past 8:30 and pass up setting a record for the first time in the last 3 months. So any other discussion? Since I am saying so much, I do wanna, if Administrator Cox wants to say anything, I'm not trying to be mean or malicious. I'm frustrated and I feel like we can do a lot better with communication as a whole, including myself. As we saw tonight, I'm not doing the best job in communicating, but I'm trying. All in favor of that public hearing? Aye. All opposed?
no.
The public hearing is set for June 25th.
We done?
Announcements and adjournment.
Announcements. I'm sorry, is that, yeah, that, we're right, okay. We didn't, review of pros and cons, consideration of motion, okay, we did not have to take a vote on that. Announcements. Anybody want to give any announcements?
I have a couple announcements. Dave Dean, Heartland Fire Chief.
Hello, Chief.
I received an email today from Jack Sullivan, the young man that was in a few months ago that Trustee Anson was talking about. He was going to do something in Centennial Park. He ran into some difficulties, but he wanted to make sure that I was aware that this Sunday he will be doing his first fundraiser at the Heartland Piggly Wiggly Brat Shack from 10 to 2:30. And the following Sunday at the Oconomowoc location of the Heartland Piggly Wiggly from 10 to 2:30. So if anybody's hungry on Sunday, after the Arrowhead graduation, recuperation time in the morning. The brat stand will be open for Mr. Jack Sullivan, the Eagle Scout that will be working hard to collect his money to get the Centennial bulletin board up. Kiosk, that's the word I was looking for, kiosk. On the other hand, I wanted to thank Dick Landwehr for joining us yesterday at the annual parade, Memorial Day parade. Did I miss anybody else?
No one else was there.
Well, that's kind of the point I'm coming to. We have a wonderful parade. I want to thank the Legion, the Boy Scouts, the Fire Department for all committing their time, energy, and effort and paying tribute to everyone in this country. And it was obviously missed that there were no elected officials at this event, other than one.
I've always seen that on, whether it's Facebook from the Legion, for everything, and I looked all over for it, because I attend that every single year, Memorial and Labor Day. I am always there, and I could not find it anywhere. No matter where I looked this year, I couldn't find it, so I just assumed it wasn't happening.
No, I'm sorry. It's happened for over 100 years, and Memorial Day
I've
does
been
fall
there
on
every
the
year.
same day every year, and that's my challenge to each and every one of you. Let's get the word out next year and get the streets packed with people to pay tribute to our veterans and our people that have given their all to this country. And every elected official, every village department head, if they are available, should be in attendance, in my opinion. That's my discussion for this evening. We will work extremely hard to get it publicized further next year and get the times out there just to get the community more aware of it. So it's a great, worthwhile event. It's a very, very, very beautiful ceremony in the cemetery, and as you know, and would love to see everybody there. And the Heartland community, don't forget it. Every Memorial Day it takes place. There's a beautiful wreath laying at the river to honor the Navy, and it goes on up to the cemetery to honor the rest of our armed forces who have given their all. That's what I have.
See, Tommy can't get started unless I'm not in the fire.
Correct. Well, it's good. Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Chief. Any other announcements? I do want to, I haven't saw the recent news, but there was a member of the Waukesha County Board who does not represent our area that was in an accident, and it was really bad. He was actually on his way to the White House for an award ceremony, I guess, anytime it's within the county and stuff like that, but I hope everybody can, keep saying prayers. I haven't recently seen news of how he's doing.
Who was that?
I would have to look in the newspaper.
Where's he
but I
from?
remember.
Yeah, I've read that in the paper.
It was a separate, it's not our municipality, but he's a Waukesha County supervisor. And it just sounded like a really sad thing to save money. He was driving instead of flying and going through Indiana. Got in an absolutely tragic accident, so.
Pretty banged up. So keep him in your prayers.
Yeah, please. And I don't have any other announcements at this time, other than garbage will be picked up tomorrow instead of today. I had my can out because I didn't do the proper thing and read the village website before I left for work. So the lesson here, read the village website upon waking up when you're sitting and having your cup of coffee, because then you would see we do post things on there that are very helpful. And in that case, it would have been, but I missed it. So I'm being serious. Garbage is being picked up tomorrow.
Jeff,
See,
one-
they always did pick it up later on that day
Yep,
or the
holiday.
next morning.
Yep.
One other thing that we may want to, and I don't know, Darlene,
Wait till I talk to that chief.
that if anyone wants to be in the parade, the Heartland Parade, to fill out the application and definitely get in the lines on Hartbrook Drive. We can use a couple more, floats or whatever, what have you, in the parade.
Anything else? Mr. Einwick? Again, thank you for your outstanding service. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I mean it.
Thank
Mike
you.
is taking his vacation time, which is well earned, over June. I'm just realizing that this will be,
My last meeting
Yeah.
before the board. Thank you very much. I certainly appreciated the last 12 years working for the village board, the park and rec board, for our citizens. We have a wonderful community. We have wonderful staff. We have a village board that provides wonderful facilities and equipment so the staff can do their jobs. So I'm very thankful for these last 12 years to be part of the Heartland community over a 35-year career. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Sorry, my other comment was, tonight we approved the board review meeting will be June 20th from 5 PM to 7 PM. We have to be here for the 2 hours. So that's all.
And
Thank
it's your
you, Ryan.
birthday.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Rashid.
Did anyone?
Wouldn't have spent it any other
Why don't you
way.
get cake? I should've got cake. I'm stuck here all day. Next time you will be stuck here all day, Ryan, and your birthday falls on a meeting night like this, we will get you cake. Sorry that we didn't get you cake. Anybody else?
Didn't bring any cake.
I'd entertain a motion. There's nothing
I
else.
move we adjourn.
I second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned.